I'd rather be with you. Yeah.
Hello everybody, welcome to Vibes Radio. So today I am with Thibaud. Thibaud is the CEO of Jubiwee, and together we're going to talk about building a startup in HR, B2B sales, building an amazing user-friendly application, shifting the balance of power with investors, how to manage the COVID-19 atmosphere, and a lot of other stuff. So you are welcome to ask all of your questions. We are live and direct, and we'll try. Thibaud will do his best to answer your questions. So, but first, Thibaud, I'm very happy to have you today in this Good Vibes. How do you feel?
I feel great, Alice. Thanks a lot for these good vibes. I'm really happy to answer all your questions. A lot of exciting stuff to talk about. So I'm all yours.
Cool. I'm so happy. So, Thibaud.
Yeah.
What is Jubiwee all about? Like the 1 minute pitch.
The 1 minute pitch? Okay. Jubiwee, we have one mission, and our mission is to end bad management. So it's a super broad topic. Everybody at some point who has worked has felt related to this mission, having a bad manager. So basically, in a very specific way, so Jubiwee, it's a new generation people management solution. So that's for the professional pitch. So basically, it's a way for managers to understand how their team is feeling at all time and in real time, so all around the year, and take the best decisions based on the context of their team. So the objective for the companies who pay us is to avoid and anticipate demotivation from employees and turnover. So what we do in 30 seconds, we gather regular feedback from employees, and then we turn this into continuous insights, recommendations, custom for every manager and every HR. So we try and talk of it like it's like a GPS for managers. It's like you're in point A, you want your team to go to point B, and there might be a lot of obstacles on the way, on your route. They might change, and we help you find the best way to take your team there.
All right. Just in terms of impact today, what are your KPIs, so we can get a better understanding of how big or growing is Jubiwee?
So my KPIs for the company, like financial KPIs?
Yeah.
Okay, so we just hit the 1 million revenue threshold a few weeks ago. We became profitable a few weeks ago, which is very much the exception in our industry, and we can talk about that later. Company was founded 3 years ago. We work with over 40 clients, mostly large companies, multinational companies. We have over 10,000 teams using Jubiwee on a weekly basis. And we have a great NPS. We have over 60 NPS, which is, for those of you who follow this, it's in B2B, especially in what we do, it's really, really good.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a good, and these results are good. Okay. But let's go back first to your life. Where do you come from? How old are you? Were your parents entrepreneurs? I want to know everything. What made you want to become an entrepreneur or jump on this mission to end bad management?
Okay. I was born in Metz, which is a city in the east of France, and I was raised there until I was 10. So I'm not Parisian, and I think it explains a lot, maybe, about I don't have the whole cool kids blasé style that a lot of Parisians kids have. I'm very much of an optimistic, so it's really needed when you tackle an industry like Jubiwee, the future of work, the future of management. You really need to be optimistic because it can go dark at some points. So I think it's a very key trait for me. My parents are not entrepreneurs; they're both employees in large companies. I went to school, and then I went to a business school in Lille. And then professionally, I did a master's in entrepreneurship at EDEC Business School, so in Lille. But I didn't really have like any idea in creating a company. So I went to do a VIE, it's a contract in New York for 18 months. I worked for LVMH there. And then I became a data analyst when I came back to Paris. And so that's where the idea from Jubiwee came from. So when you're a data analyst, basically your job is to work with marketing departments in large companies and explain how you can customize the interaction with the clients. So how do you customize the website? How do you, with the cookies, like how do you customize a website, a product page, a newsletter, this kind of stuff. And the idea for Jubiwee is that I realized at some point that a lot of companies, they knew very well how to make custom experiences for their clients, but they didn't do it for their own employees. And so the idea for Jubiwee initially was how do we create a tool to help HR or managers create custom experiences for their employees?
Okay. And then you decided to narrow down and to do only, but that's one of the most important things, only the mood météo. How do you feel today?
Yeah, so basically I think it's a common thing when you start in entrepreneurship and it's your first company, you want to do everything. So we didn't know if we were going to target large companies, if we were going to target small companies, what we were going to measure exactly. And so we started like selling this big engagement pitch because it was like the thing that everybody was talking about. Everybody was talking about happiness at work and this kind of stuff. And we didn't feel really confident in this happiness at work because we can talk about this after, but like the happiness thing, it's very, you can discuss it. It's not something that I personally agree with, like your job doesn't really have to make you happy, but we felt that there was something about how do we help HR and manager make more sense of the work with their team. And so we got into the family, I think, 1 year after we started the company.
Wait, Thibaud, because this is an interesting point.
Yeah.
Your mission is not to make the people happy at work.
No.
This is interesting because there is a huge phenomenon right now. There is this sociologist that I like, Eva Illouz, who wrote a book called Happycracy, talking a lot about this new way for big companies to use emotions to serve their own interest and to make the people feel responsible for being happy. And not to the whole system and organization to actually question the way they are built and make the people for real feel happy for the sake of it, just for it. You see? So what is your mission and how do you see this? Because this is a very important matter. Your mission is not to make the people feel happy at work.
No, I mean, here's the thing. We work in an industry that's very cheesy, where everybody's like, you have so many like coaches, chief happiness officers on LinkedIn. You see a lot of people talking about happiness at work. And I mean, I don't personally believe in that at all. I don't think it's the responsibility of your company to make you happy. And if you rely your happiness on your company, you're going to be miserable in your life, chances are. So it's not, for us, it's not about being happy at work. And as you said, a lot of people also say there's this sort of moral obligation of being happy at work, and it's adding like the in French we call it the, you know how you call it, the charge mentale, right? It's like the charge mentale of being happy at work. So for us, it's just about not being miserable in the activity where you spend 1/3 of your life in, and it's about working on things that you align with, that you agree with, that you understand. And so the whole thing about bad management is if you want to have an impact on the way that people feel at work, bad management for us, it was the number one way to go because it's the number one avoidable pain in the ass that you have in companies.
What is bad management?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of, so the point about Jubiwee is to say there's not one way to manage people. So same thing, there's not one way to serve your customers and there's not one way to interact with your team. So if you ask me what's good management, what's bad management, there's traits but it really depends on the team that you're managing. If you're managing developers at Google, it's not the same thing as if you're manager for a train company for people who put on rails at night, you know. So you have to adapt to that. But, you know, basically, if you talk about bad management, if you ask around you, like literally 100% of people would say at some point they have had bad management. And all of these people, they mean different things. And so what's a good manager is some common traits is that you communicate a lot, you over communicate even, you give feedback often about the good and the bad, not just the good things, but also the bad things that people do because people want to improve. You share a common vision, even if it's just at your level, in a local level, in your team, you need to share a vision. And you don't, so one of the things that's really important, you don't tell people how to do things, you empower them with the end results, and then you hold them accountable, but you let them do it the way they want. And so these are like sort of common traits that you have for a lot of kind of jobs. But then, I mean, we can talk further. I think there's a shift in the way that people feel about management and what they expect of a manager. And again, it's very much of a cliche, like people are talking about Generation X, Generation Y, and Z. They want to be managed this way or this way, and I think it's bullshit. I think it's not a generation thing, it's a time thing. Everybody, 60-year-old people right now, they want to be managed a different way they wanted to be managed 20 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah. And also I mean, yesterday we couldn't gather the information and the data about the way people think. When you're a manager with a team of, let's say 20 people you have to take care of, you cannot always be aware of the problems and the little tensions that, and it's your job to make sure that people feel at ease to do their job properly. So this new to have this data, that's exactly what Jubiwee is about, right?
Yeah, it's so basically just to correct something you said earlier. We're not just asking the question, how do you feel? We're also trying to. It's not just the temperature; it's also the symptoms, and we try to understand for every single job. Like depending on your job, you have different expectations regarding your job. It's if you feel bad, why do you feel bad? If you feel good, why do you feel good? And we take this amount of anonymous data, and we turn it into really tidbits of information, easy to understand and to act on for managers. So yeah, the data thing is really important. We used to talk a lot to HR people. Now it's half HR and half management. Mm-hmm. And there's sort of this, I don't know why, but HR are kind of freaking out about the whole, artificial intelligence thing, like data thing, because they see their job as being really human centric. And they're like, oh, if we have data about this, if we have intelligence, if we have analytics, then we take the human part out of it, and it's like a robot who's managing you. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of a funny fear because, HR keeps saying, oh, I did this job because I want to be very human and I'm very much people-centered. But really, when you ask anyone who works in a large company, what do you think about your HR? Nobody's going to tell you they're so human and they're so people-centered. They're going to be like, yeah, it's the corporate machine just like standardizing everything, because they have to, like the number of HR versus the number of employee makes it so that you can only take standardized action. And so our take is that we use data to make management more human, actually, because as you said, you're a manager, you have 20 people, even if I have like 6 people under me, you can't know everything that's happening. People are not telling you everything. Mm-hmm. Even if they are, you're human, so you can't remember everything people say. You tend to remember the last person who talked, or the person who talks the loudest, the people who's the angriest. And so the beautiful thing with data is that it's a great equalizer, because everyone has the same voice. It's democratic by essence. Everybody can express their feelings. And if it's anonymous, even people who would not tell you otherwise, they tell you. And the thing is that when you have data to back up your management style, like you have factual information that you can base yourself on, and you can say, oh, I see that you guys like are going this way or this way on a specific topic, I can act accordingly. If you don't have that, it's like, okay, I think I should do this or that. And that's why people think there's like good managers and bad managers, is because they feel like, especially in France, that you have this sort of like God power that falls upon you, and you're like, I know things and other people don't know things, and so they're bad managers. But really, usually, again, I'm an optimistic. I don't think people are like inherently bad or assholes. I think a lot of times they just take decisions and they don't have the information to back it up, and we just fill that void and we give the information to back up their decisions.
I get it. And the question, the kind of question that you ask, you say, okay, it's not only the temperature, it's also the symptoms. Are you focused on KPIs, team by teams, or not?
So it's not a performance where we don't track performance. We track the way people feel, the way we track their experience at work, but we don't talk about how they are performing in their job. Companies have other tools to do this, but we don't focus on this.
Okay, and that's interesting because that's a real choice. Like you decided to stay on emotions, like the emotional states, and emotions are for you the very like the cornerstone of how the team will end up working together.
Yeah, I mean, some of you maybe know the OKR thing, so the whole thing of tracking performance indicators and how you're performing. Like companies have spent a lot of time trying to figure out how we can measure performance. And emotions it's very much of an intangible thing to track, but people are like instinctive creatures, and nobody quits their job. I mean, some people, but like most people, they don't quit their job because they have very factual information about what they like, dislike, didn't do. People quit their job because they feel like shit, or because they feel like they don't have any way to progress in the company, or because they feel like they're not recognized at their real value. This is emotion based.
Because it's training, yeah.
Exactly. And companies, I mean, when we talk, I keep talking all the time about the future of work, and especially with the crisis that just came, people are asking me, do you think companies care about the way that their employees feel? They have like economic constraints and so on and so forth. I'm like, yeah, people have to do more with less money. Companies can't afford to have employees who are not like 100% focused on their vision, who want to do the best out of their work, who are motivated to go there. Like nobody can afford that. And if you're like talented, if you're, if you're a good employee, if you feel like you're good at your job, if you're lucky enough to be in an industry where you're not stuck with one company, but you can go work with other companies, why would you stay in a company where you don't feel you're recognized? And a lot of companies are starting to realize that. 3 years ago, it was not the case. It was just a few companies who have a lot of turnover. But now every company in every industry, they're starting to think of how my employees feel, not just as like a good thing for like hiring and a good communication and marketing message, but like it's an asset. If my employees feel good, they're not going to churn as much. They're going to be more motivated. They're going to work better. They're going to be less sick. Like there's a bunch of studies about all the benefits of having, engaged employees.
Totally. Something that the COVID-19 has taught us, has been accelerating, is that you've seen as an employee that you could do without any insurance, without any security, that actually it was not that important. You could do with nothing. I mean, you could do without spending money, as much money as you used to. A lot of people are leaving the towns to go and live in the countryside. You finally see that it's possible to live and to enjoy the countryside as well. So many things are changing. So the thing that is the bond with your company is not about the security and the money. Is more and more about the mission itself, as it was already growing. We have been talking about the quest for meaning for a long time, but right now it's even more obvious.
Yeah.
And you with Jubiwee, can you ask questions like, is it important for you to talk about I don't know, like to have the company involved in certain topics, like the contextual topics, and can you also feel the way people are afraid because you want your employee to be dedicated and to do their job, but the context is so special, right?
Yeah. So for us, really, there's two ways, and I'd say two scenarios where companies want to work with us. So the first one is pretty straightforward, and it's the initial one is, I have a lot of turnover, I have a lot of disengagement, I know it. And so usually they already have like a survey every year or every 2 years about how employees are feeling, but that doesn't work. And so they are looking for ways to better equip their managers and HR on how can we be more responsive and act on what people don't like before it turns into people quitting, right? And the other scenario is on a very specific topic, like, you know, there's a transformation, so it could be a layoff plan, it could be an acquisition. You know, they want to make sure that it goes smoothly from a people perspective. And the COVID crisis, like the how do you call it, the lockdown of the economy, right? It was one, first, it was one use case that everybody wanted to understand. So a lot of them, as you mentioned, a lot of companies had a lot of people going remote from one day to another when they didn't really have this culture. But some others, they had to send their employees to work, even though their work environment changed a lot. Like if you work at Carrefour, if you work at something, you have to go to work, but your work environment, all of a sudden, it seems very hostile. It seems very like you don't really want to go. Some of them had to do the chômage partiel, so it's sort of a part-time layoff thing, but you're not really fired. So I can't really explain in English how that works, but like it's like partial unemployment. And so companies, they came to us, and we had like in 2 months we doubled our user base. It was crazy. Like we had so many people request to implement Jubiwee, and it was basically about how can we keep the connection and understand the impact on employees' morale and keep the link with managers if we don't see the employees or if we're not with them on a day-to-day basis, because so many things are stressful and we need to figure them out before people go into burnout or go into strike or go into, so yeah.
If I'm a manager, I can set up my own questions, right? You help me, but
yeah, we help you. So we have like questions that were built by experts, and it's like machine learning. So we have, every time a question works well with the client, if it works well repeatedly, we anonymize it, we make it standardized, and you can find it in the library. And then we have like the tool is made for, so that's an important thing. On the market, a lot of tools are made for HR, for experts. But for us, our specific take on this market is that we didn't want to build a tool for experts. We want to build a tool for everybody, for the average Joe who's a manager at Danone, who has like maybe 7 employees, has never connected on an analytics dashboard, never used HR, doesn't really like HR, doesn't really care about HR. We wanted to build a tool for everybody, so it's really easy to log into it. You spend 10 minutes a week, you understand how your team feels, what's wrong, what's right. It's very important to also focus on what's right and what you're doing well in your team. And then you have like specific recommendations on what to do next to improve the way your team feels.
All right, we have a question from Maria. Maria, who is an entrepreneur and a girl from Gold Up.
Okay.
Yes, and she's asking, how do you tackle people who put aside their emotional intelligence at work? I agree, no one has bad intentions, but the emotional intelligence is often seen as vulnerable in the workplace. What do you think? Have you had a conversation with businesses that have over 70 years in the marketplace and employees that have worked for their over 20 years? What was their point of view of your business?
So I'm not sure if you're mentioning like about managers, like how managers feel insecure about their results, or if you're talking about employees who maybe don't feel like they can express themselves. So I'm gonna just answer quickly both ways. So if you're an employee, the number one thing that we do at Jubiwee is we communicate at the company to explain how we're different from every other survey that they've ever taken in the company. It's 100% anonymous and it's 100% focused on them. So if you're an intern, you're not going to have the same questions as if you're a director. So we try to make it relevant for you so that you don't feel like you're answering just another standardized survey. So we insist that it's anonymous, that we're a third-party safe partner, that your information is never going to be shared 100%. And we have like over 90% answer rate. So everybody, like empirically, everybody is answering and coming back, because we work a lot on the problem. Employees usually, they don't want to, if you ask them straight, like, what's your problem, they won't tell you, because A, they're afraid that you're their manager and you're going to punish them if they tell you something's bad. And B, they're like, why do it? Because I know it's not going to change anything. People are like very much like, blah, why would I express my feelings? And we work on both things, 100% anonymous, relevant, and the most of our job is on managers, and how do we make sure that this information doesn't just stay there, but it turns into better actions, better improvements on your day-to-day life. So that's one thing. For the managers, it's a tricky thing, because some people are afraid of having bad results. They feel like they're at school, and if some employees are telling them, oh, this isn't going well, they feel like they're feeling hurt, and they're feeling like it's their fault. So we work with work psychologists on how to balance like the good and the bad. So everybody has like an equal part of things that they need to improve and things that they're doing well and better than average in their team. And the questions are never really asked directly, like, how do you feel about your manager? It's always biased question. It's always questions, not biased, but like taking on the side, like, how do you feel about this specific topic? How do you feel about this process of doing things? How do you feel? So let me give you an example. One of our big clients, a large consulting company, a lot of people were complaining about their evaluation at the end of the year. And they said, it's not fair. I can't be here myself to defend myself. I don't agree with what people say about me, blah, blah, blah. And so what the company did, so the questions that we asked is not, do you like the way that you're being evaluated? It's like, here's the way it works today. If you were in their position, what would you change in the process of evaluation that would make it fair for you? And so we gathered like hundreds of thousands of feedbacks from all the people, and then they used this to change the evaluation process. And now when we ask again, how do you feel about the evaluation process? It goes way up, because people feel it's more inclusive, and they feel like their opinion has been asked on how to build this. So that's the way we do this. It's not pointing fingers. It's about including people in the way that we find solutions.
Mm-hmm. All right. Why did you choose to join the family, Thibaud?
We chose to join the family because, so we started the business with Antoine and Victor, my co-founders, 1 year before, and we felt like we had to, I think it was fundraise, like we felt like we had found like 3 or 4 big clients. It was doing okay. We started to pay ourselves a small salary and we were doing fine, but we didn't really know what to do next, like how to go to the next level, except for me to continue go and knock on clients' door. We didn't really know what to do, and we didn't really have a vision. We didn't know how to hire employees. We didn't know how to fundraise. And we knew the family because you guys are stars and you're famous, and we said, okay, why not?
We are not stars, but you were using our content basically.
Yeah, but yeah, I was using, so basically the funny thing, and I don't think I've ever told you this, Alice, we applied for the family first time just 6 months, 7 months after we started the company, and we got rejected. And people told us, it's fun what you're doing, but like we don't really see how you're different, and we don't really feel the vision that you have. So maybe come back later. And it felt like a good way to say, you know, go away, and like we don't. And so we applied again 4 months after, and it was a time where the website was down, like the application form was down, so we couldn't apply on the website. And it was like, sorry, applications are off, website doesn't work. And so I wrote an email to Balthazar and Oussama, not Balthazar, I think Oussama, and I said, here's the thing, we applied 4 months ago, we've changed this, and this, here's the vision that we have, we need to talk. And he answered to me, and then I met with Balthazar, and Balthazar told us, it was a test. Like we like to see how people bypass the whole not having a website on, and we really like the mentality. We met with you guys, and so we joined you for the experience and the content that you created. We thought it would bring us a lot, and for the family thing, for the whole thing about being with other entrepreneurs and sharing your problem, and yeah, that's.
And about fundraising. So you've been fundraising, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you looking for in your investors, and what do they bring? Like each of them, like, and why do you talk with them often? Because I know you have a good relationship with your investors, right?
Yeah. So we raised funds in late 2018. What we were looking for in investors.
How much did you raise?
Sorry?
How much did you raise?
700,000 euros.
Mm-hmm.
What we were looking mostly is for people to, so several things. We wanted people who were hands off. So we didn't want people who would have like board meetings every other week or every blah blah blah. We felt like we had a lot of liberty, and most of our competitors, they have raised money and they have a lot of investors in their capital, so they're not. We feel like they're not really free to do what they want. We wanted to keep this freedom, so we wanted them to be hands off. We wanted them to be really blunt about what they think about the business, how they feel about this, their fears about the market, and so on and so forth. And we wanted, so it's a funny thing. We're a B2B company. Obviously, we work with like large enterprise clients, but we wanted to have B2C investors because the way that we build the product, we are very much of a product company. Because we're building it for managers and not for experts, we're building this in a very B2C way. And that's why we have so much engagement. That's why we have a great NPS. That's why we have zero churn. Like we've never lost a client, which is, nobody has this in our industry. And I think that's because one of our motto is like, we have a B2C mindset in a B2B world. And so for us, it was important in terms of experience to have people who are famous and successful entrepreneurs in B2C who can tell us, you know, how they feel about the market, about the tool, how they would use it themselves, how they would develop it. So yeah, that's what we're looking
for. Of Zenly invested in one of this person. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And who else did you gather at your?
So Kima, so it's the fund from Gadieniel.
Mm-hmm.
We have Julien Lemoine, he's the CTO of Algolia, which is
Algolia is using Jubiwee.
So no, we're focused on enterprise, so it's mostly large clients.
Okay.
Algolia is not using it, but Julien Lemoine, who's the CTO, is an investor. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And with Julien, what kind of advice do you get?
It's more so with Julien. It's more how do you deal with large companies when they're, because obviously large companies sometimes they can, if you're a startup, they have a lot of requests, and you can't always like comply with everything that they would have with Oracle. It's not the same thing when they deal with Jubiwee, obviously. So you have to be agile. Gives us a lot of advice on pricing, like how they did it on their end. How do you go from a small ticket, like initially our tickets were like maybe 10,000 a year. How do you go to 6 figures? How do you go to big 6 figures? It's really a process. So he helps us with that stuff.
How many people there are in Jubiwee?
In the company, roughly 10 people.
And you are all remote work. I mean, working remotely right now?
No. So initially we were very much office first. So we wanted people to come here first, and if they needed to take a day off, they could. And then with the crisis, we had our biggest month. We crushed all our records, and everybody was remote. And so we thought, okay, we can work in remote. We can work pretty well. So now we're switching to a hybrid mode, where people who want to come to the office, they can come, and people who want to work remote, they can work remote. And we're just checking like how they're doing on their OKRs, and that's it.
And what are your next steps, Thibaud?
For the company, so several things. A lot of clients are asking us, so we're telling them what's going well and not well in their teams, and we're helping them figure out what the next steps should be. But a lot of them are asking like, can you work with us on implementing stuff? And we're not a consulting company. We never wanted to be. So historically, we've always told them, no, we don't do this. Not what we're doing is we're building a product, working with experts, independent experts, and matching them. It's like a Tinder match. Like we're matching every manager and every HR with experts that are most relevant for them. We negotiate the pricing and we connect them together to find solutions and work the best way they can. So it's a very ambitious product that we're working on with our clients. We tell them in the process.
Is it like fully online? Like
It's not fully online. It can be online, but also physical missions. So this is one big project product-wise that we have. Another big thing that we have coming up in September. It's in partnership with, I don't know if I can say it, but I think that should be fine with Madines. So we have this, we don't have the name yet, but it's like an observatoire coming up in September. And we want to, so the thing is with Jubiwee, we have so much information about how people feel at work, all kinds of people, how their mood is changing in time. And so we have so much insights, but we can't communicate about them because it's confidential and it's GDPR and it's for every company. And so what we are launching in September is we're going to ask a lot of people in France, all kinds of backgrounds, a lot of working people, how societal topics are influencing the way that they see work. So for instance, right now we talk a lot about Black Lives Matter, about LGBT History Month and this kind of stuff. And our feeling is that people now are expecting their employers to take a stand on values, on things that historically French companies, they didn't really want to work to communicate on because it's political and maybe you lose clients, maybe you have boycotts and all this kind of stuff. And so we felt, I went to Canada 2 years ago and I was surprised because when there was the gay pride, every large company was like sponsoring the gay pride. And I thought, well, in France, it would never happen. And now, so what we're doing starting September is that every month we're sending 2 or 3 questions to a lot of people about actuality, like the news, and how the news are changing the way that they're addressing work and the view they have about work. And then we will communicate with Madines we will write an article every month on the future of work and the future of the employer-employee relationship and how it changes.
So really alignment between the values and the actions.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really interesting, especially this part of matching expert and managers and HRs, because from the data you have everything, and that allows you to be the platform, the relevant one to answer all of these questions. Maybe a marketplace of talents or.
Yeah, I mean, from day one, we've had a lot of consulting companies who have been writing to us to build partnerships because they're like, okay, we sell missions and we have to sell it in hard, like we have to find a problem and then sell the mission. And if they work with us, we're sort of the perfect like pre-sales tool because you know at every time which teams need which expertise. So it's a lot easier for them to like, but we chose to not go with like one big consulting company, but rather work with independent people who have a lot of expertise, are really eager to work. So for us, it's very important. You have to be eager, you have to be optimistic, you have to want to go and really improve we don't want to sell bullshit consulting that doesn't serve anyone. Managers, they don't have the budget for that. So we want people who really want to make an impact. So that's why we're working with freelancers and independent people and independent experts.
It's much more relevant than a Glassdoor, if I may. I mean,
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Glassdoor is really about giving a rate at one certain time. Boom, it's done. Versus you are like the living mood of the company. And
yeah, it's like a picture versus a video, basically. Yeah.
It was a pleasure, Thibaud, to be with you for these good vibes. I've learned a lot of things. I love to end these good vibes with a question about music. What is the music that you've been listening to these last weeks that makes you feel good and keep your vibes up?
So I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan. I really like Bob Dylan. most of his songs are not really uplifting; they're more like complaints. But there's one that I think, and I listen to all the time. It's called "Positively 4th Street," and it's a song about, telling the haters to go fuck themselves, basically. And it's a really good song, I think.
This one.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's totally coherent with you. Thank you, Thibaud.
Thanks, Alice.
Everybody, you are welcome right now to do the chat roulette. So you're going to meet every 5 minutes someone who's been following this live. You just click on networking and you will enjoy meeting people and having a conversation. Why not finding new founders, co-founders to start a business with, make friends, debate. You click on réseautage for the French people and on networking for the non-French people. Enjoy, my friends. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.